Conway Daily Center reporter Daymond Steer. I'm with State Representatives Karel Crawford and Richard Brown, who represent, well, actually different districts, but they're running for District 3 in Carroll County as Republicans. And thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.
And so I guess maybe we should, at first we should start off by explaining that Richard is in District 8, but he's migrating to District 3.
That's correct. I was originally in District 3 2 years ago. When Senator McConkey ran for his seat, he asked me to run for District 8, which also included the towns of Moulton, Tamworth, and Madison, which are in District 3. So I'm returning back to District 3 since there was a candidate available to run for District 8 this term.
And Representative Hamlin is not running?
He is not running. He chose not to run again.
Okay.
We're hoping he runs for selectman in Moulton Borough, though.
All right, well, with that, why don't you two introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your background and how long you've been a rep, how long you've been in the district, that kind of thing.
So my name is Karel Crawford. I've been a state rep for the last 14 years, 7 terms. I've lived in my town of Moulton Borough for 48 years, so I know the town very well. And I'm also a selectman in the town of Moulton Borough, and this is my second time around. So in all, I've been a selectman there for like 14 years. And school board, I was there for 9 years. So a majority of 37 years of doing community service, basically. And I have 2 children that are grown and 3 grandchildren. And I am a business owner. I own Red Hill Driving School, and my contract is with Plymouth High School, and that's what I do for a job.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Richard Brown. I currently represent Carroll County District 8. I formerly was in District 3. I've been a state rep for 4 years now, and I'm proud to serve on the Carroll County delegation with Carol and a number of other great state representatives. I've lived in Moulton Borough for the last 16 years, was on the Moulton Borough Fire Department for 11 years, multiple committees in Moulton Borough for about 5 or 6 years, and I was also on the school board for 3 years.
And so, take your pick on who goes first, but why are you running?
It's a good question. Some would say 14 years is enough, but I don't think it's enough because I still think there's a lot to do. And also being a selectman in my town, it gives me an insight of what's going on with the municipalities, and I just feel like I've got a lot more time to contribute to my town and my district, and I'm proud to do that. And when it all said and done, I think I'm a good candidate, and I think I have a lot of responsibility and a lot of insight, and I think I'd be a good state representative for another 3 years.
Thank you.
So I ran 4 years ago, the first time when my son came home from college. He said he was concerned about his future. We had just finished redistricting in the state, and there was another seat available in District 3. And so I decided at the time to throw my hat in and try and make a difference, try and keep New Hampshire a good place to live for my kids and the other people in my community. So I still think I have, after 2 terms, I think I can still make a difference in the state. I still think that I really feel one of the strongest points is I work across the aisle with state representatives. I spent some good times with former Representative Steve Woodcock up here working across the aisle, and Anita Burrows, and I think we need to do more of that to make sure that we can move the state forward as opposed to just maintain party discipline.
What are your thoughts on education funding? I know that's a big topic.
It is a big topic, and right now what I'm concerned about is going back to donor towns. That to me is a high priority on my list, not just because Moulton Borough would be a premier donor town and I live in Moulton Borough and I don't want my taxes to go up, but I just feel that you can't ask one town or one municipality to pay the taxes of another town. So to find a total solution for that, it's going to be very difficult, but it certainly isn't going to be done with an income tax or a sales tax. I think a lot of it has to be local control of spending, And I think the state has certainly divvied out quite a bit of money towards education in the last 3 budget cycles, and I think it should rely on our local control on how you spend it.
I'm also a resident of Moltboro, so I'm concerned about donor towns, and the people in our town are concerned about that. Our taxes are reasonable for the state, but we also have a pretty high education budget in our state. I think it's $37,000 plus per student, which is pretty high. But that's one of the things that the people of our town have decided they wanted to do, to spend that much money for their education. Not every town has that ability to do that. We feel fortunate that the town people feel fortunate that they can do that. But I think it's probably one of the most controversial subjects in the state, EFAs, education funding overall, and where we're going. And I think I was also a school board member and feel it's important to maintain our public school system, but I also think that it's important to give people a choice, and that the big concern that we've talked about a lot in the State House is the Claremont decision, whether that's legitimate for our state, looking back at the Constitution in regard to what's a legitimate amount of money to spend. We passed House Bill 1815, I think, this past year, that defined more clearly what an appropriate education is, which outlines that basically it's education for your basic education, not all the additional funds that are spent on sports and things like that. So I think that's probably the biggest issue, and probably one of the most difficult issues we have in the state. I know not everyone's happy with the way it is, and I think it's going to be a continuing issue throughout this next term. I know Carol and I have talked about this at length, about some of the things that we think are good about the EFAs and some of the things that we think could be corrected with the EFAs, including the fact that maybe we should be having oversight. Well, we do have oversight in the state, but maybe it should be managed more directly through the Department of Education or through a different mechanism.
Yeah.
It's fair. And how about property taxes? I know that we're, education ties strongly into property taxes, but what are your thoughts on getting the property tax lower?
Depends on where you live.
You're right, it does.
Absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, in Moltenboro, we have the most lake frontage on Lake Winnipesaukee, so our assessed value just keeps going up and up and up. And every time we get our evaluation, which is coming up right now, I mean, I look and go, how did it go up $900 million or whatever it might be? It's just, I guess it's just what people are willing to pay for a piece of property. And we as a select board, I know that's not a state rep, but we as a select board try to minimize what we're going to spend to keep our taxes down, even though they are low compared to some other towns. But I think we take good responsibility on how we spend our money, and I think that's what a lot of people have to think about when they go to town meeting and vote on a lot of the things that sometimes are not needs but maybe wants.
So along those same lines, I think one of the biggest tax burdens we have is the education portion. And I don't remember what the bill is. I know you and I spoke about this before, that there's a bill that puts the decision making on whether there's a tax cap on education is going before the towns this fall.
Yeah, that bill is going to be on.
It's going to be
Right.
on the a vote for the local communities,
Yeah.
and decide whether there should be a cap on education increase funding or not. I think that's an important thing for some people. Some people feel fairly strongly about not being able to have a tax cap. Some people feel like they should be a tax cap. So we felt it was important in the State House to put that on the ballot, as opposed to town meeting where not as many people have that involved. So I think that's an important issue. The other thing is, I know Carol and I are on the county delegation that reviews the county taxes, which is an additional tax burden for some people. And I think Moltenboro pays, I think, 24% of that
Just about 24%.
tax. I know we speak with Commissioner Chuck McGee on a
Yeah.
regular basis, who I think is very fiscally responsible. But we also feel that there's needs for the county that need to be funded through that process. And I think we're trying to be really responsible at that. I know you attend many of our meetings, And that's a topic for a lot of the meetings. And the other thing is, I think in our county, I get a lot of emails or phone calls or text messages from residents that are concerned about just the ability to pay their taxes. And we're certainly not in the highest income county in the state. And we have like several of our towns like Madison, Tamworth, they do not have the same tax base that Moultonborough has. So we have to be concerned about making sure that we keep the taxes as low as possible for those people that are, you know, for the most part, everybody up here is a working class person. Yeah. And anytime we increase the taxes, it's a tremendous burden on these people. So jobs and the tax base is something we really try to concentrate on. And that's, I took, the first year I ran, I took the no new tax pledge and continue to support no new taxes unless there's an absolute need for it.
I was wondering, what is the tax rate of Moultonborough? I know I've seen it in the past, and it looks very low on paper.
$5 and, you got me on the spot, $5.38, maybe something like that.
And that's inclusive of everything between the town, the schools.
Yes, and the county.
And the reason why it's that low is because your property values are so high.
Absolutely, yeah. So it evens out, honestly. You've got, we're a town that has multi-million-dollar homes. I mean, compared to myself and you know, anybody who's not living on the lake per se. So when my taxes go up, it's really because the evaluation of the whole town just skyrockets. Yeah.
Let's see. We've talked about housing. What do you guys think about housing? How do we make housing affordable? Or should we do that?
Let me hit that one first, because
go
I
ahead.
know on the county delegation, I was on the committee for the county delegation where we had the charrette, and we spent a lot of time. I actually spent some time with current Senator McConkey and current State Rep Page, going throughout the state looking at tiny homes and other options for housing. We felt like we'd gone through a tiny home site in Dover where a businessman decided to develop this for the benefit of his employees, which I thought was great. And I don't even remember.
Yeah,
Did you go?
there.
Yeah, you went there as well. And I thought it was a fantastic visit and something that was a responsible approach maybe to our state. We even looked at, for our county, the possibility of making some land available for lease or even building some houses out for county employees or people that resided in the county to help maintain our staffing for county jobs. When the charrette was actually done, we intentionally tried to stay out of it. I'm a civil engineer, and I used to build houses when I was younger, so I have some experience with that, but we didn't want to drive the solution. But we also had, like I think you did, the idea that we would come up with a smaller homes, maybe a one-bedroom or two-bedroom home that would be available. In the end, when the charrette was done and we had multiple meetings in multiple towns, it came up that based on what everybody wanted in a home, that the home was like $550,000. That's not what we considered a affordable home. And I was very disappointed in the result, but that's what came up through the charrette, and I'm hoping that we can, in the future, come up with something better than what the committee came up with at the time. But that's what the people of the county felt they wanted, and it's the average home in the state is $550,000. So it was the average home price, which is not an affordable home. So we have to find some better ways of making this happen. I have two sons, one's 23 and one's 26, and I've said right along that my sons couldn't afford a home, let alone rent a place in Moultonborough. It's very difficult for anybody who's a working class person or starting out to get a home, because quite frankly the builders are building the biggest home they can on the property for the most profit, because basically the time it takes to build a bigger home is the same time as it takes to build a smaller home pretty much, and they don't make as much profit. So I think one of the things I know I talked about with the former selectmen in Moultonborough was the fact that we should find some ways to maybe defer tax payments or something like that in towns on property, so that builders would be encouraged to build smaller homes in a community where land was available. But it's a very difficult subject.
Earlier today, we had George Monterman, who's the third candidate. He had a couple things to talk about, including he said he had a disagreement about a private road bill.
Sure, I know exactly what you're talking about. When I first got elected state rep, I met with George at a local diner about an issue that he had with the town of Moultonborough, where they have private roads basically, and it's an issue that's well covered in state statutes and well covered by the towns. But he lives on a private road with a number of other residents. I don't know whether it's 20, 25, 30. I can't remember the number. But it's a road that goes down to Lake Winnipesaukee, and he wanted me to submit a bill to support taking over that road. And I looked into it with the selectmen, and they said, well, we'll take over the road now if it's brought up to speed to town standards. So I told George that, I said, well, if you bring the road up to town standards, they'll take it over today and maintain it into the future. And I believe they also plow it though now, which they do a lot of private roads in Moultonborough that way. But the point was, he felt like I should, as his representative, put forward a bill to address his particular concern. I was at the time on the Municipal and County Government Committee, and that was the committee that bill would come through. And I simply told him, that's not a bill I can pass for us to automatically take over a road, whatever it was finished by a developer, if it didn't meet the standards. His concern was, well, I'm a taxpayer like everybody else. Well, yes, but I live on a private road myself. I'm required with my neighbors to maintain my road. Fortunately, it's not the same length, but I'm required to maintain that. But the town roads, they do maintain. So it was a question of interpretation. State reps are not required to put in a bill if they don't feel it's viable or if they don't think it's reasonable. And that's a disagreement I had with Mr. Moulton.
And I've seen this conversation take place in Conway, in the typical way it's resolved is by warrant article when the road is brought up to spec.
Right.
Exactly.
And there's other ways around it. There's the way they did this, the proposed, the Settlers Green roads and Common Court. There's a betterment process, but that's probably too in the weeds, and it's more business related.
Right.
And then also he talked about how he has a lot of, he's retired and he has time to do it. And Representative Crawford, being a selectman, does that limit your time, your availability in Concord at all?
No, it doesn't. Actually, my board we used to meet on Thursdays, and when I became a selectman this time around, I asked if we could meet on Tuesdays, because this was when I found that I had to leave session a little early to get to my selectman meeting at 5 o'clock, and they were all fine with that. So we moved our board meetings to Tuesday. And I work full time, but I'm a very organized person. And the more I work, the better I feel. So it doesn't bother me to go to a selectmen's meeting every other week, and we might have a meeting in the off week. 5 o'clock to usually about 6 or 7. And my committee meetings are on Tuesdays, but we're usually finished before I even have to go up there. And my job is I teach 16 and 17-year-olds how to drive. And
that must be scary.
Well, some days it can be, but I've been doing that for 27 years, and I like to work. So as far as if I don't go to Concord, it's for a good reason. It's either I'm ill or my husband's ill. And basically that's about it. And I don't think I missed that many days this term. So not everybody can be 100%, no matter what they say. And I think I do a great job attending everything that I need to attend.
And are there any bills on any other topic that you two want to talk about, bills or ideas that you have?
I'd like to just go back to George being retired. I'm retired as well.
Okay.
Okay, and though Carol's not retired, I've worked with her for the last 4 years, and she's attended the meetings and provided, I think, an experienced perspective on the county delegation as well as in the State House. So I talk to her on a regular basis on bills and her experience. For instance, the 40 towns on the
coalition.
Coalition, that type of thing. I've talked to her about that, tried to understand the background. I've talked to her about SB2 since she's had experience with that and helping me determine that. I think experience in the State House is a benefit. I think that anybody that goes can do the job and learn the job, but I also think you have to have the right demeanor, the right approach, and have to be approachable and willing to listen to people about their issues. I know, for instance, I've met with people in Madison and Tamworth, people that are Democrats. I'm a Republican. They've approached me at the State House and asked me, for instance, why I voted a particular way. And I said, I'd be willing to meet with you and your group anytime. And I met with them in Tamworth, and they understood why I voted a particular way. And I thought we walked away with an understanding of what they wanted and what I wanted. And I think you have to be willing to do that.
I think you have to, and you have to have a lot of respect. I mean, if you give respect, you'll get respect back. And I think in my 14 years down at the State House, I take pride in that, and reaching across the aisle is very easy for me. And I think compromise is really the answer to a lot of things that go on down there. If you can't compromise, if it's just going to be your way or no way, you're not going to get very far. So experience, thank you for saying that, because I do have the experience down there, and I have the relationships that I think are important. I've been the clerk for 6 years for transportation. It's a lot of work, but it gives me an insight on, you know, all the bills that are coming across my committee. And I think the one bill that was a controversial one was inspections, but I really hate bringing that one up.
Yeah, that just seems to be changing every day.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
You know, since you're dealing with transportation, how about the traffic in Carroll County?
Well, that would be highway more,
Right.
because transportation, we handle licensing and those type of things, inspections, but highway, they really have more to do with the actual roads. We do work with speed limits, but yeah, that you used to be on that. Yeah.
Well, I'm on Public Works and Highways
Works,
now,
yeah.
and I think it's really important. One of the things that our committee this year passed the budget and our plan, long-term plan, unanimously. And then it went to the governor's office, and she chose to veto it. And I'm hoping that we can override that veto, because I think it's very important for our county and our state in general to have the resources it needs to maintain our roads. I'm also for the increased toll on the lower part of the state. That would be handled through an easy pass type process that would increase the tolls on people that are out of state. But if you have a New Hampshire easy pass, whether you're a resident or not, you still pay that lower rate. So I think it's a reasonable solution to help maintain our highways. And I think we put a lot of work into the highway plan, and I would like to think that we can get that approved.
Yeah, that would be good. Have a plan. How was your drive up here? And you came from Moultonborough. Were you?
We were stuck at Dunkin' Donuts. That's where we got stuck. But Richard knew a way around, so he's driving, and it was a lot of traffic. You have a lot of traffic here.
We really do.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
So now we've made 2 more reps aware of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I guess my question to you would be, which is what Carol and I talked about. I try not to always provide the solution. I try to pay attention to what the local people have to say and what their concerns are, and try and take their concerns in mind when we come up with solutions. Lots of times, I know for me with bills, I don't come up with the initial idea. I get the idea from the constituents. I work with them on it. Then I work with legislative office group, and we come up with a plan. And I think that's the way to do it. I think the fewer regulations we have, the better. But it's also necessary for a functioning government to have the right regulations, in some cases, to revise the current law.
Well, we got about 5 minutes left. Is there anything that you guys want to bring up that we haven't discussed?
Not that I can think of. Can you think of anything?
I'll simply say that I feel very fortunate to live in New Hampshire, and I feel very fortunate to be able to serve the people of the county and District 8 currently, and hoping to do it in District 3. But I also like to say that I'd like to thank a number of Representative Kuhn and Representative Hamlin who stepped up and served in District 3 in the past, is not serving again. People like Representative Woodcock, who is no longer going to serve because of personal reasons, but he was a pleasure, and interesting person to work with on county delegations.
Absolutely.
So, and Senator McConkey, I'd like to thank him
Yep.
also for his mentorship of me the first couple of years I was in the State House, and I still call him when I have questions in the state, and I think he's a really valuable resource to our state and this part of the country, who's really invested in the North Country about what we want to do. So I just feel fortunate to be able to serve, and I hope people continue to support that.
And just to recap, Richard, you represent District 8, but you're moving to District 3 if voters so choose, and District 3 is Madison, Moultonborough, and Tamworth.
Correct.
That's correct.
And you've been serving District 3 for quite a while?
3, it used to be 4,
Four.
and then it turned to 3. And I'll be honest, when I saw that Madison and Tamworth were part of my district, I thought, wow, I don't really go to Madison very often, and I was pleasantly surprised when I drove through Madison. It's a beautiful town, and Tamworth, of course, you have to go through Tamworth to get anywhere on Route 16. So I was happy to and privileged to represent them. I don't get to see a lot of them a lot, but it's I hope that they'll consider me again for another term, and I'd be happy to serve for sure.
And let's see, we've got the primary on September 8th.
Yes,
And we have the general election on November 3rd.
yes.
All right, well, I guess we are,
Thank you for
Wrap up.
having us. I really appreciate this.
Absolutely.
This was a totally new experience for me.
Yeah, this is a first for me as well.
yeah,
So.
we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.